Good morning, News in Motion family. How are you doing today? Today is Tuesday, June 27th, 2023. I almost said Thursday there. It feels like the days are mashing together, but today is Tuesday, June 27th, 2023. Today is That's Happening Tuesday here on News in Motion. We have, of course, Miss Gail giving us the relevant commentary and headline news as always. But we also have Devontae Goins coming in with a special report from Unbossed Columbus. So as you are coming into the room, whether you are tuning in through Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, we just want to say thank you for tuning in live. If you are also a audio or podcast listener, thank you for listening in as you're traveling to the workplace, or if you're going to a grocery store real quick. Um, Thank you for tuning in. But if you are catching the replay, whether it is in the afternoon, the evening, or near the nighttime, just want to say thank you for watching and supporting News in Motion. I see a couple of y'all coming in here. Good morning to you, Deborah Johnson, tuning in from Facebook. Marion Jackson tuning in through YouTube, and Regina Shorts tuning in through YouTube as well. So y'all know what we do here. Let's go get some news in motion.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I was looking at the video this morning as I see you all coming in here. I see my brother just popped in here, Louis Pryor the third. He goes, "Good morning, my sister. I'm back." I'm glad you're back. Yay. But I was watching the intro video and I said, man, I look young in those pictures. And I was like, okay, it's time to update those pictures. My hair's not even being worn that way. I said, oh, we got a lot to do before we come back in here in September after we take our August break. But it was just amazing to watch that. Normally I'm listening to the music and kind of dancing, but today I was paying attention. I was looking at what did I like, what didn't I like. Just, I'm getting my mindset for what alterations are going to make. So good morning to all of you. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I see you, Deborah and Marion and Regina, as Isaiah has already called out. And then I see my brother in here as well. Jeff Payne is coming in the room. I see him popping up in here as well. Y'all, today is Tuesday, June the 27th, 2023. I am your host, Gail Dudley. If you're ever wondering, if you're listening in on the podcast, who is that woman? My name is Gail Dudley, and I'm just so happy to be among you. And I thank you that you allow me to spend some time with you. So I'm real grateful for that. We are divided on several platforms. We are on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn, and we are on YouTube. So the views, you may be on one of the platforms. You're like, wow, there's nobody in here. That's because maybe they're on the other platforms. We're also learning that just because you don't see the numbers, that there are many people that are tuning in. And then on the podcast side, wherever you listen to podcasts, there are about 1,000 of you or more. So we're just so excited about that. I see you, Dr. Antoinette, coming in here as well. But y'all, we are at the place that we're about to wrap up our news segments that will end this Thursday. Then we'll go into Young People Takeover, and they will still be bringing you news, but they'll be bringing you news from their flavor, from their viewpoint, from their standpoint. So we have our high school ambassador, Lexi Williams, and then we also have our media freelancer, Isaiah Jones, who will be carrying that again. When we end on Thursday, they will not return until July the 5th because we're going to take that long weekend for the 4th of July. They will return on Wednesday, July 5th, and they'll be here on July 6th. And then the following week in the month of July, they're only going to be broadcasting Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. August will be our break. And I want y'all to really support these young people. If you know young people in your sphere of influence, encourage them to come on. Yes, at 7:25 a.m. But believe me, they're going to have fun 3 days a week. We want to empower them. We want to encourage them. So we want young people to come in here. We want the older people to come in here as well. And then August we take our break, and then we will return in September, and I believe it's the Wednesday after Labor Day. So we'll keep you informed with all that. I see you, Fred Jones, Mike Nicholson. I see you, Sardinia. Good morning to you, and Kim Edmondson. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So thank you all for tuning in. We just love what we do. Okay, we love it. And one thing, I see you, Stephanie Burbridge Hall, popping in here as well. One thing that people are noticing, and it is so true about me, that I'm always in the building stage. I want to build up people. I desire to build up people, whatever that looks like. I desire to build up people. So, yeah, let's get to the news. From the White House, the Biden Harris administration announced over $40 billion to connect everyone in America to affordable, reliable, and high speed internet. Now, that was some wild press room stuff yesterday. This is the largest internet funding announcement in history, and it kicks off the administration. Yesterday, it kicked off the administration wide Investing in America tour. I see you, Judy Neal. Good morning to you. Y'all, about 7% of the country still doesn't have broadband access that meets minimum standards, according to federal estimates. Y'all, this new push to funded by the recent bipartisan infrastructure law, could bring faster internet to about 8.5 million families, businesses, and other locations. And here's how all this breaks down. I'm going to give this to you from the White House. Not every page, but I'm going to give you some of the highlights. This was really interesting. And I'm going to say this before I go anywhere else. It's the little things that this administration is doing that are turning out to be bigger things. And we cannot miss some of the things that they're doing to bring broadband internet to every American household is major. And we can't miss out. We can't miss out on this because it gives people the same access as everyone else. Google, research, information, banking, whatever that looks like, is bringing that to everyone's household. So we just have to be mindful of that. I see you, Misha. I see you, Adrian. So, y'all, among the highlights, it says awards range from 27 million to over 3.3 billion. That's with the B, with every state receiving a minimum of $107 million to do this. Y'all, that's huge. 19 states receive allocations over $1 billion, with the top 10 allocations in Alabama, California, Georgia, Louisiana, Michigan, Missouri, North Carolina, Texas, Virginia, and Washington. Y'all didn't know that, did y'all? Yes, Kim Edmondson, especially for the students. Um, with these allocations and others, the Biden administration invests all 50 states and DC and the territories now have resources to connect every resident and small business. I thought that was major when they added small businesses to reliable, affordable, high speed internet by 2030. So it's going to be a slow rollout. They're starting with these initial top 10 allocations and a rollout from there. There's more details that I'll get to you all later, but they're talking about internet for all. They're talking about 14.2 billion for the Affordable Connectivity Program, and that's considered the ACP, which provides eligible households up to $30 a month. So they'll have some sort of help to get that out there. Up to 75 a month on qualifying tribal land. So they considered that. This figure will be off their internet bill. Now, y'all, listen, they're providing this. Don't go out and get some fancy dancy smartphone thinking I got internet and I'm gonna do this, that, or that. You gotta pay for that. But you'll have access to the internet. So have some understanding, and use wisdom when getting the device that you're going to use to help out. Like, for example, the thing that the children are using today are the iPads or the or tablets. Something that's user friendly that will allow you to connect to internet. So, yeah, when they're saying they're giving you back $30 a month for $75 a month, understand that you got to work within that framework, but you'll have the broadband, high speed internet. 2.5 billion for the Digital Equity Act is also out there, which provides grants. I want y'all to hear this, which provides grants to ensure communities have the skills and support needed to take advantage of high speed internet connections. So, why am I sharing that piece of it? all of you nonprofit organization, your churches and people out there who can apply for these grants. Y'all, there's 2.75 billion with a B for Digital Equity Act. This will help you do teaching, classrooms, workshops, whatever. So engineers, those of you who are, Mike Nicholson's on here, web developers, content creators, media freelancers, producers, and so forth. There's grants out here in the amount of $2.75 billion. That's what the B. Dr. Antoinette said, remember COVID? How were people supposed to register for the vax online? That's right. Good morning, Latrice Jones. Good morning, Tony Morrison Smith. Dr. Antoinette says also when schools had to hold classes online, internet. Yes, Mike Nicholson, fist bump back to you. So y'all, that's out here. Also, an additional $2 billion for the Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program. Say that real fast, which provides grants to federally recognized tribal governments, tribal organizations, tribal colleges and universities, and departments of Hawaiian, Homeland, and Alaska Native corporations. So if you're here in any of these tribal areas, 2 billion grants provided. So check these things out. Y'all didn't hear this anywhere else, did y'all? Nowhere else did y'all hear this. I'm giving y'all the information so you can go out and get it. It was interesting. I was listening to different news commentators, even in the press room, and no one was talking about sharing this. They were just talking about sharing. Hey, every American by 2030 is going to have this. What about the details? Why not share this information? Going back to last week, and I want to insert that here. Going back to last week, we talked about having the information available to all people and not just to select people, and how we work together. We were talking about line items in this whole public deficit workshop that I went to, and understanding what those line items look like. So when you see these grants and things, who's applying for them, and what normally happens that some money is left on the table because it's allocated to different groups, but we're not out here getting it. So even with this, everyone, you want to make sure that you are, if you have a business, make sure you're registered with your Secretary of State. Make sure you have all the documentations that you need. If you have a 501c3, make sure you list that. Have your mission and your vision statements together. Have all of that information together so you can apply for these things. There's a lot of workshops out there about government funding and how to go after it. We're going to start sharing that with you as well when we come back to in September. But we want you to have this information at your hand. And the only way we're going to get it out here is if here on News in Motion, we're sharing it. But then once you get it, make sure you're sharing it with people as well. Like, you think about Devontae will be coming in a little while, but you think about artists, you think about journalism, you think about content creators, you think about small businesses, you think about coaches and consultants and all of that. We have to understand what we offer and put that out there and connect with people. Collaboration is also going to be key. You've heard me talk about that many times over the years. Collaboration is key because you may not have an element of it, of what's needed for the application, but somebody else may have it. So you collaborate with it and you go in together and you get that funding. Our mindset has to change when it comes to this. So we have this whole thing with Internet for All. We have $2 billion for the Department of Agriculture. That's the Reconnect program. And it's interesting because I asked this question, and I want y'all to follow me here. I asked the question, said, what does that have to do with Internet? It has a lot to do with Internet. And it talked about the Reconnect program, which provides loans. Hello, somebody, primarily to build high-speed internet infrastructure in the eligible rural areas. And I think so often those of us who may live in metropolitan areas or in the suburbs or whatever, we're not considering the rural areas. So y'all, 2 billion for the Department of Agriculture's USDA Reconnect program. So that's important as well. And then y'all, 1 billion for the Middle Mile program. Ask the question, what is the Middle Mile program? Well, this is providing funds for the middle mile backbone of the internet networks. Now, I'm not a tech person, but I ask, what is that? They're like all the people on the back end. Like you have the people who are building it, but then you have the middle people that cannot be forgotten. So, who are the middle people? Virtual assistants, finance people, people who are going to roll out the program, people who are going to talk about the program, people who are going to go into the high schools and talk to the students or talk to the parents or go to the PTA meetings. So those of you who have a gift of speaking, consider being the middle mouth, being that middle person. But here's what's interesting, and people will tell you they get sick of me asking questions, but I'm asking questions because I was like, well, what is this? I'm reading it, but what does it mean? When I learned what it meant, I thought, wow, there's all kinds of people who can fill these roles, y'all. We cannot miss this. Latrice Jones said, what is the middle mouth program? Just told you. I like that, Latrice. Good morning, Hester. Good morning. Latrice said, yes, our mindset has to change. It has to change. And then President Biden's American Rescue Plan, y'all have heard about this, also includes over 25 billion for high-speed internet, including the Department of Treasury's Capital Project Fund, that's the CPF, which provides 10 billion to states, territories, and tribes for which high-speed internet is eligible to use. The coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery fund, say that real fast, and those initials are SLRF. FRF. And then they're talking about how those funds are delivered. And then the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, which is 7 billion. That's the Emergency Connectivity Fund. Now, I'm sharing all this with you, and I purposely wanted to walk through this because when you hear on the news today or wherever, yes, this is a lot. This is a lot. When you hear on the news today or wherever, you can say, oh, there's money attached to that. Oh, how can we connect to this? How do we get to this? I got the information for you right here on News in Motion. Latrice Jones says this is a lot of billions, a lot with a B, a lot of billions. Going back to the classes I took last week, I wanted to share this because I was able to see how things started to connect. That's why learning, we got to continue to learn. We got to continue to learn. When you find yourself stagnant, continue to push forward and learn. And what I was able to connect to this is all of these line items. So, for example, I feel really empowered having the information I received last week. For example, let's go back to the recent debt ceiling chaos. Well, if you remember, there's a line item that was on there talking about the whole COVID piece and that funding, what are they going to do with that money? They got to return that back into the budget. And so they had discussions, debates to get that back in there. So if this money, the billions that Latrice Jones mentioned, a lot of billions, if we don't use this, where do you think that money's going? So when they get back around the table and they're talking about the budget hearing and budget committees, they're saying, well, this is a lot of money sitting over here. So what are we doing with it? We're not using it. Just like every budget in every company and every nonprofit organization, if you don't use that money, you lose that money. And it's hard for you to negotiate with that money in the next pot because you didn't use it. But the problem is there's a breakdown in communication because many people don't even know this money is out here, especially the line items for Black and brown businesses, small businesses, women-owned businesses. SBA has a lot to do with it because they will categorize groups, but those groups don't even know this money is available. So we're not taking advantage of the money. Latrice Jones says, I'm glad you were able to attend the conference and get this empowering information. Listen, girl, I am like on fire with this information. Kim Edmondson said, use it or lose it. And Latrice Jones said the same thing. So if we don't even, but the problem is, many people don't even know what they're using. They don't even know that this money is available. Again, and I'm not talking negatively about any other media outlet or their commentary or what they do. But here's one of the challenges. They're not sharing the details. They're just like, internet for everybody. But what does that entail? And that's what we give right here on News in Motion. And I'm glad to do it here. I'm glad to do it here. And this is where we're going to stay. And this is what we're going to continue to do. But let me also add the voting component to it. And then we're going to go to Devontae. The voting component to this is what I'm about to say right now. We have to continue to vote people in who are going to consider what billions or millions are going to put on the table for those of us in small businesses, our side business, whatever it is, consulting, whatever, that will be able to have access to it. that will be able to have access to this. Mike Nicholson says most just waiting for others to do it for them. And that's sad. You're right, but that's sad. We have to jump in on this. Can you imagine us being the CEOs of this? Y'all, that's powerful. I see you, Karen. With that, we're going to turn the corner a little bit. Devontae Goins is from Unboss, who comes in and gives us a special segment each week, and he will return with us in September after this week. And don't forget, y'all, the Young People Takeover will be happening in July, and we want to encourage them. But he's going to talk about some findings of gun violence and violence of children. So y'all probably like, we went from internet to gun and gun violence. Well, I see the connection, because you have internet, you have these games that are out there, because that's going to change once everyone has access to the internet. All these different games and the violence and the movies and documentaries and so forth will come forward. So if you get this information, it's going to make a difference. And I see Marion Jackson says, wow, thank you for this educational information. You are welcome. So go ahead and bring on in Devontae Goins. Isaiah, please. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm over here muted. You
Uh,
know what they say when you go live, anything can and will happen. Hey, good morning, Gail and News in Motion family. Leave it to me to be over here on mute having a whole conversation with myself of all people.
well, I'm gonna let you take it away, because I think I gave you a great segue to talk about violence now that
Yeah,
every
you did.
household will have broadband internet.
You did. You really did set this up really well. So, everybody, Nationwide Children's Hospital, which is located right here in Columbus, Ohio, recently did a study that discloses some reasons why so many youth shootings have been happening. The study involved deadly unintentional rather shootings involving kids younger than 15 years old. But check this out. They looked at only a small data set. They looked at 279 shootings across 33 different states. And 41% of the students, the research found that the victims, check this out, everybody, this is heartbreaking, were only between the ages of 2 and 4. Really mind blowing, between 2 and 4, 41%. That's more than a third, almost a half of the cases when it comes to youth violence or be among our little ones. And they are preventable if you believe it or not. The Dr. Nicole Michaels, who was one of the senior authors of the study, she writes in the study, quote, it affects little kids who don't know what the guns are. They're playing with them, they're handling them, and they often shoot themselves. She goes on to say, News in Motion family, the older kids, they find the firearms in the home. They want to show it to their friends. Maybe they're having a sleepover or something like that. That's kind of the typical scenario we see in this data set, unquote. In 92% of the incidents, the guns that were used in these shootings were left loaded and unlocked, according to the study. These deaths, bottom line, can all be prevented, from the 2 to 4 year old deaths to the older ones. Both scenarios from the study, I actually have had family members or neighbors who have had to live these things, everybody. So for the 2 to 4 year old experience a couple years ago, a neighbor who lived right across the street from me, she set her gun on her bed. Her 2 year got it. While she was just literally turned her back to move to take off a shirt and then move back to try and put it away. Her 2 year old had picked it up and shot himself and shot her 4 year old. That's just one case. And then just a few weeks ago, kids were, or teenagers, not kids, but teenagers were at home while their parents were gone out of town. One 16-year-old literally picked up the gun, was showing it off to his friends, and the gun fired and ended up killing his best friend of his entire life. And that's something you can't undo. You can't bring back a life. So, bottom line, everybody, lock your guns up. It only takes a second to, instead of putting it on the bed, put it in the gun lock, put it in the gun safe. Gail?
Yeah, thank you for that. I have a question, if you don't mind. So when you're hearing me talk about the internet and high-speed broadband throughout every household, How will that contribute to more young people being curious about some of these games they're viewing on the internet, some of these movies? And everything you turn to, you see guns, you see some sort of fighting, you see something like that. So, how do you think this is going to contribute? Did they mention that at all in the report?
No, they didn't, but Gail, believe it or not, it won't contribute any more or any less because these 2-year-olds and even the teenagers already have wide access, like you were just alluding to the internet and to these different games like Fortnite and different things like that. That
Yeah.
guns are readily available, even in some of the music. It alludes to like, "Hey, I'm going to get this gun and I'm going to kill you for messing with my homie" and things like that. So. Violence is everywhere in all of our conversations. Very quickly, Gal, I was having a conversation with someone on Sunday, in fact, at a event that I was at, and she pointed out something very, very interesting to me, and it hit me and it stuck with me. She said, in all of these initiatives that all of these cities and townships and even the federal government are doing, it all says anti-violence. Talks about violence, but none of them talk about peace. We know they're trying to get to bringing peace back, but they all keep talking and putting the word out there: violence, 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 instead of peace. And that's a deep sub
Wow.
psychological thing we all need to think about in the context of when we're
Yeah.
talking about these guns, because we keep putting out words and things like violence, 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 instead of talking about peace, 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 when really that's what we want.
Wow, that's a good point. Wow, that's eye-opening. That's eye-opening.
Yeah.
So our language has to change. The narrative has to change. And I
Yes.
think there's more opportunities. Some of these billions that we can have some workshops to talk about it and tie that in. And that's also an opportunity for collaboration where someone like you, the event you were attending, partner with Children's Hospital here in Columbus and do a big grant where you have workshops, broadband internet, and violence. Somebody in Baltimore, same thing with the news organization, same thing with the collaboration with their hospital there to discuss that and pull that together. That's how we're going to make a difference. But my question back to you, Devontae, is how do we get beyond ourselves and truly partner? You have any suggestions for that?
Gal, that's to put it in the words of my great academic advisor, Dr. Julius Bailey. That is a $10,000 philosophical question that I don't think we have the time for right now.
We at some point we're gonna have to discuss that. We may have to use a whole segment to
Yes.
do so. Just to get to the root of it. I think we just need to generate some not just ideas. Everyone's talking, but how we're going to walk out a plan to say, okay, here's step one, two, and three and with
Hmm.
time frames to it, like we're going to complete step one in 90 days, step two in 120 days, whatever that looks like, just to show some movement, because I think if we just continue to talk about it, and that was a great report, but I'm ready. I'm with you, and I know you have that same thing, like let's go with it, let's do something. So we'll get there, but thank you so much for your report today.
All right. Thank you, Gail.
Have a good
See you
day.
next week.
Okay. Yeah, real quick, the Associated Press reports that US Supreme Court rejects Ohio State University's bid to dismiss lawsuits over alleged sexual abuse by now deceased university doctor. Now, this was real good to put right behind Devontae since he was talking about Children's Hospital here in Columbus. Now, y'all, the Supreme Court let stand this decision that allows more than 230 men to sue Ohio State University over decades old sexual abuse by university doctor, which dates back to where? Jim Jordan's days at the as their Ohio State University's wrestling coach. So who knows? He may be all that stuff he's been trying to run from could be coming back to face him face to face. Associated Press also reports that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, yeah, y'all, this 2024 presidential candidate, unveils immigration and border policy plan, which includes ending citizenship for children of migrants born in the US, among other proposals. Yeah, yeah. And people want him for their president. He promised to end birthright citizenship. He, they were born here, but he's promising to end that for those born to immigrants here in the US. I want y'all to hear this. He has promised, make this make sense, y'all, to end birthright citizenship. They was born here. How you gonna end that? And what about the Constitution? Yeah, these are questions we need to ask. He's talking about finish building the southern border wall and send U.S. forces into Mexico to combat drug cartels as a part of an aggressive but familiar immigration policy proposal that he laid out on yesterday at the Texas border city. Now he's talking about Florida, but he was in Texas and he's talking about this. A lot going on here. A lot going on here. Yes, Kim Edmondson, his polls are dropping. He dropped 22 points over the weekend. That was a CBS poll, if I remember that correctly. Yes, his when now that he's out at other places, people are like, I don't like him. They don't like him. So it's just really, really interesting. Dr. Antoinette said 14th Amendment. I'm not for sure, Karen, who he mentioned, but yes, and the presidents cannot override the Constitution. There's that. It's just so interesting, so interesting. Y'all, CNN and HuffPost reports that CNN on Monday, y'all, they got their hands on the audio of the former guy discussing sensitive military documents he took with him after leaving the White House. Yeah, I don't know if he's like, don't know that stuff is, can be recorded. I'm not for sure. Legal analysts pointed out that that's really bad news for the former guy and for his defense against charges related to the alleged mishandling of classified material. Now, this recording is even more damning than it reads in the document. And this is from a former federal prosecutor. Along with that, the judge who's overseeing this is saying that the judge plans on scheduling the trial as soon as August. Because she wants to get this out the way. I guess she wants to get this out the way so he can continue to do his presidential ground stumping, whatever he's doing. This judge, who is a Trump appointed judge, which I really hope somebody comes in and say, you can't oversee this case because there's a connection here. It's an unfair balance here. But she's also saying she's going to release the witness list where the DOJ and others are saying don't release that list. Well, she's saying she's going to release the list. So it's already messy. So we'll see what's going to happen here. Um, uh, uh, the former guy said the recordings exonerated him. He is clueless. I saw that too, Kim. I was like, no, I don't think that's correct, sir. I don't think that's correct. So y'all, we just got to keep watching that. Talking about building businesses and what to do, y'all, TechCrunch is reporting that Amazon is going to launch a hub delivery service and that they will partner with local businesses to deliver packages. Now, according to a new report from Axios, they're saying that Amazon wants to partner with small businesses such as bodegas and IT shops so they can become delivery partners with them. The company pays a small fee. I want y'all to hear this. And I wanted to read this line on purpose. The company, being Amazon, will pay a small fee to the small retailers for each package they deliver. Why can't they just deliver the package and get the whole fee? This is how we need to think, y'all. I was just reading this thinking, okay, I see you, Amazon. I see what you're doing. And I'm seeing you saying you give somebody the small fee. Well, why don't you even go 50-50 with them? Or why don't you teach them to do what it is that you're doing so that you can have a competitor and y'all can discuss who's going to get the fee and who's going to get that delivery contract? What about that? What about that? All this big stuff. Come on now. We got to do better. We got to do better. All right, y'all. Fox News. That's happening Tuesday. Fox News taps Jesse Waiters for primetime slot previously hosted by Tucker Carlson, who was let go in April. CBS is reporting that Ryan Reynolds and Michael B. Jordan among group purchasing 24% equity stake in Alpine Racing, valuing the Formula One team at $900 million. Pay attention, y'all. Pay attention to what's happening. And then y'all want to get just a little bit into travel, then we're out of here this morning. Y'all, carbon monoxide poisoning while traveling. This is the time that people are going to be traveling. Y'all, in November, this past November, yes, that's right, Kim Edmondson, that's happening Tuesday. In this past November, 3 Americans visiting Mexico City were found dead in their Airbnb, with the cause of death being carbon monoxide. A few months prior to this, 3 travelers from Florida died after becoming ill from carbon monoxide leaks at a sandals resort in the Bahamas. Now, they're saying there's no guarantee that you can control that. They're telling people to be mindful of it because it's a silent killer. However, and they're saying, it's colorless, odorless gas, while you're sleeping, it can get into your lungs and all of that. But they're putting the onus on the travelers to find out if their stuff is together, whether that's an Airbnb, a hotel, Varbo, wherever, resorts, cruise ships, whatever. But what about making legislation saying that if you're selling anything to Americans in America or wherever, if you're selling anything, you have to make sure everything lines up with the rules and regulations. And that if not, if you're killing somebody, if carbon monoxide is coming into your area, that you're going to be charged with murder. Why can't we just make that a rule? Why do we have to tell people to go buy a certain device that when you're traveling to check to see what the carbon monoxide levels are? Y'all, these are the questions that I'm asking today. So this is happening. This is happening. So Airbnb is saying on their title page that they're, in a quote, it says, preparing your listing for safety essentials. They're telling people what to prepare. What? But no, you go ask your Airbnb people who have put their homes up for Airbnb to make sure they're regulated. Go tell your hotel people that if you build a hotel and you're having travelers come in and out of your place, that it is regulated, that you're meeting the rules, the policies, and the regulations. Seriously, why is the ownership on us? We're already paying you to do the job you're supposed to be doing. So, who's really responsible for this? What's the right people that should take this on? And then, do you check travel advisories before you travel? You should. Folders reporting that the United States Department has issued a travel warning for the Dominican Republic, warning U.S. citizens traveling to the country to be vigilant towards violent crimes and sexual assault. The travel advisory issued on June the 6th does not change the country's advisory level, which is already at a level 2. And they're telling you to exercise increased caution, but repeats advisories for travelers. Now, y'all, according to the State Department, and I give you this quote, violent crimes, including armed robberies, homicide, and sexual assault, is a concern throughout the Dominican Republic for U.S. travelers. The advisory goes on to note that resorts areas such as Puerto Plata and Punta Cana may be better policed than urban centers like Santo Domingo. Now, the advisory also refers to a high level of criminality on the broader scale. Cruise ship passengers on excursions arranged by the cruise lines are also at a relatively low risk, but they're saying you still have to be mindful and careful what you're carrying, where you're going, and how far you get off of that path. Y'all, this warning is out there. They're telling people to please be mindful. I'm going to hopefully put this in the chat so that you can see it and read it for yourself. Check this out before you travel so you know where you're going, and it's in the chat. So if you're listening to the podcast, come over to one of our other platforms at some point today and click that link there. One more thing before I go to the inspirational message, and then we'll be out of here. If you need travel recommendations for this summer, the highly anticipated International African American Museum opens in Charleston, South Carolina today. Y'all, I saw some pictures. I saw a video tour. It looks like I can't wait to get there. So y'all, that is out there. I'm going to also put that link in here as well, if I can get it in here, so that you can have it if you're thinking about traveling now or later. Boom, it's in there so that you can be a part of it. Real quick, the inspirational message, this was from another class I took while I was away last week. I want to talk about greed versus self-interest real quick. Greed versus self-interest. And what's the difference? Well, if you think about greed and self-interest, and this is straight from the professor's, his name is David Cotter, PhD, and I got permission to share this. He's saying, all believers are called to work. So especially if you're a believer, we are called to work. Deborah Johnson says we need a news in motion trip to the museum. I kind of like that, Deborah. I kind of like that. You put that together, we'll go. Profitable work leads to surplus. And then greed is really the sinfully obtaining or neglecting, and greed is also of the love of money. So this professor broke this down. He said, here's the truth. And I thought this was great. He said, here's the truth. He said, so many believers have this ministry mindset, and we're thinking that ministry means free. He said, no. He says, we have to work. We have to eat. We have to have shelter. We have to have transportation. He said, we have to have health care. He said, we have to have insurance. He named all kinds of list of things. He said, the mindset needs to change. He said, he's afraid that people's mindset started from a very early age based upon how they were raised. He said, from whether you were in a impoverished situation or if you were in a wealthy situation. He said, it starts there. He said, but in ministry, we're lifting up people, we're building up people, we're helping people. But even in doing so, we should not have that consumerism mindset that we're just taking from people, that we should be blessing people, that we should be giving to people. And he said something, I was like, I say that all the time on this emotion. He said, don't base it on what you think somebody has. He goes, I don't care if you're blessing a billionaire with a B. He said, there's still a line that we should be blessing people, especially if we're receiving something from that person, that business, that organization, that church, that ministry, that institution, that whatever. He says, so we should have the mindset that all believers are called to work. And in our working, this is the self-interest side, that in our working, we should also be receiving the value of what we're giving. I said, that makes sense. He goes on and talks about profitable work leads to a surplus. He goes, profitable work leads to a surplus that will allow people to then give and to sow and to be philanthropists and to build up other people. He said, but in that giving, the person that we're giving to should then be empowered to also give as well. Y'all, it's a cycle. It should be continuous. It should not stop with a person. It should not hit a wall and it dies. He said it should be continuous in our building. But he said, greed, on the other hand, is having a love of money where our hands are so tight that we don't release and give to anybody else because we're thinking, nope, this is mine. I worked for it. I've struggled with it. I have blood, sweat, and tears behind it. So I'm going to just hold on to it. He said, at some point, that's going to die. He said, it has to still be some giving somewhere in there. He said, and that all starts with our hearing the word of God and releasing that back out into the atmosphere. Y'all, this was powerful. I was like taking notes like crazy. And he said, greed is that sinfully obtaining or neglecting, that we're sinfully obtaining and we're neglecting the needs of others. He said, greed also comes into, he goes, so what, you have 10 pair of shoes. You got 10 pair of shoes. He goes, that's not greed. He said, greed is saying, well, I got mine and I see you over here and you're trying to build a business, but I'm going to let you figure it out on your own. He said, that's greed. He said, where self-interest is, let me help you build this thing. Let me speak into this. Let me connect you with some people. And while I'm at it, let me give you $5, $500, $5,000 because I believe in the work that you're doing. So he broke down sustenance, utility, that's self-interest, security, that's self-interest, increasing money and assets, that's self-interest. Greed is indulgence. That's the only word that was. I was like, this is powerful. This is powerful. He also talked about, now I know my time is running out, but I want to get this up here. He also talked about connecting good intentions with sound economics. He also talked about Proverbs 31:18 through 20. And he had his quote is, she sees that her trading is profitable. She opens, not her, his quote, his graphic. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. And he broke down that word needy. He said, needy could also mean I need the definitions for something. I need the connections with people. I need to understand profitability. I need to understand balance sheets and statements. I need whatever that education is, what you need, what you stand in need of. Y'all, I can't keep going in all this. We're going to keep rolling this out. How I'm going to insert this into a lot of what we're going to be doing moving forward. But y'all, there was a whole lot there, and it helped me change my thoughts on some things. And I'm hoping my sharing it with you today helps you begin to think, okay, my mindset needs to change. Where do I need to go? My self-interest. I'm interested in this business. There's nothing wrong with that. But to have that greed portion on the other side, no, no, no. Stop holding on to it. Share it. Y'all, that word is out there. That word is out there blessing people, tithing into people, giving an offering. Start, start building up. But that whole ministry mindset, y'all, needs to change. Ministry is not free. Churches still have to pay for the buildings. They still have to pay for utilities. They still have to pay the people who are working 24/7 in many cases. And stop trying to put a value on your pastor or their family or the people. Stop saying, oh, they're only worth $50,000. Are you kidding me? Their sweat. You don't know what's happening behind the thing. They may really be worth $500,000 or more. We don't know what God called them to. I know that just messed up half of y'all that are listening in or tuning in. It really could, but we need to stop putting value on people. We need to stop saying that's all you're going to get. That's all you worth. And we need to stop having these side conversations. If you're wondering why you're in debt and why you're struggling, think about the conversations you're having. I said what I said. I said what I said. I can keep going, but I'll stop. I can see I'm going into dangerous territories. I can feel it. So anyway, y'all, more of that's coming, but change that ministry mindset. Stop holding on. And sometimes God be telling you to sow. And you're like, I ain't doing that. He has everything he needs. Well, does he really? Maybe you don't know about that medical bill that needs to be paid. Maybe you don't know about the fact that that car is about to get repossessed. Maybe you don't know that their mortgage is about to go into foreclosure. And it's none of your business that any of those things may be happening. It could be God has given you that so you can sow it because he's about to bless you with quadruple the amount that you just sowed. So you're not going to miss it anyway. The mindset has to change. Another great session that I went to, it was deep. It was 90 minutes. And I was sitting there sometimes wrestling through some things, but he was speaking truth and he was depositing it in a way that people in the room were able to receive it. This was a great session. I can't go all the way into it, but here's a couple of scriptures if you want to write those down. Colossians 3:25 was one he used. Colossians 3:23 was one. Ephesians 4:28 was another one. 1 Timothy 6:10. I know y'all want me to write these down. I'll put them in the chat. And another one was 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 5 and 6. There were so many more others. There's tons of scriptures he used in here. But y'all, we have to start thinking differently and begin to empower each other. For those of you who are going after these billions of dollars, look, here's an opportunity for you to do even more work. Okay, Lori said, you said what you said. I did. I said what I said. Marion said, speak the truth. I do every Monday through Thursday, every day actually of my life. Deborah says, trust God when he tells you to bless someone, even if it stretches you. And it's interesting that you said that because this man said it as well. He talked about the woman who gave her all. Like, this is all I have and I'm giving it. And then how she was blessed in return. Yeah, we can't miss those things. All right, y'all, that's all I have for today. Until tomorrow, which is Wednesday workshop. That's going to be interesting tomorrow. I'm Gail Dudley. This has been your News in Motion. Y'all know what I say. Stay well, everyone. And remember, make some bold moves. We're out.